What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Axel's Analysis. As always, I'm the man too cheap to make up his own name, so that was still an Axel Mulligan. NXT this week, it wasn't great. They've set the world alight with TakeOver. Last week's show, the Fallout show, was, it was okay. It's good enough. This week, there's a lot of stuff that didn't really make a lot of sense. A lot of stuff that could have been done better, probably should have been done better, but wasn't. There's a good tag team title match. But the rest of the show, it was passable. I wouldn't say they phoned it in. It was a little bit better than that, but could have been better than what it was, basically. We had Rich Brennan, Jason Albert, and Renee Young on commentary. They did a good enough job, I think. I think Albert is probably the better commentator out of him and Alex Rawley. He's more experience in the ring, so he's got more insight and more knowledge. Riley, I'm not sure how long he wrestled for. I know he's been there in the WWE for about 4 years now. But no, I'd much prefer listening to Albert, apart from when he's talking about wanting to hug Bayley and whatever with them as bubbles. Rich Brennan, he was much better this week than what he was last week. And Renee Young, as I said before, she's proven me wrong. She's done really well the last sort of 2 or 3 months or whatever it's been. Fair play to her, as I like to say, I like to be proven wrong. But yeah, first match of the night was the first bit of bullshit of the night. Literally, we had Mojo fucking Rawley versus bullshit Dempsey. It was a bullshit match, as I say, Dempsey won. He hit 2 moves the entire match. Running body block, followed up by the diving headbutt. That was after Mojo went all out on him. What's confusing me about Mojo, they built him up. He was undefeated for a little while. He lost a match to Bo Dallas, but that didn't really kill his momentum. Just sort of brushed aside all these jobbers, if you will. Obviously, that's expected when you're facing jobbers, but you can't have a guy who's squashing guys and then goes to getting squashed like that, just in a heartbeat. There's got to be something. There's got to be some sort of transition. With Mojo, there's not really been a transition. He's lost a couple of matches. Guys like Tyler Breeze, guys you probably expect him to lose to because of his position on the card, but it just didn't make much sense having him getting squashed not once but twice. Obviously, he got squashed really at TakeOver inside 2 or 3 minutes by bullshit Dempsey as well. So frustrating to see. I'm not a big Mojo fan, but I like to see continuity and I like to see things that make sense. And it just didn't really make sense to see him getting squashed a couple of times, in my opinion. Post match, Mojo sort of walking out the ramp. Tyler Breeze is coming out because his match is up next. Mojo sort of brushes past him, taps him on the shoulder, and Breeze is a bit pissed off and he takes exception to it. And what he does is he grabs hold of Mojo and throws him shoulder first into the ring post. So Mojo goes down like a sack of shit, basically. Breeze is looking at him with complete disdain in his eyes. So yeah, his match is up next. It's against Justin Gabriel. Again, something I didn't really understand because you've got Tyler Breeze who's a heel, you've got Justin Gabriel who's a heel. Heel versus heel matches only work under special circumstances, like the Shield versus the Wyatts. That worked. That was probably one of the better matches of the year, and it worked so well, even though they were both heel teams, because each fan had an allegiance. Whether you were Wyatt family, whether you were Shield. Personally, I was Wyatt family. But yeah, it worked. But when you just have a random match thrown together for TV, it doesn't work. This didn't work. So, typical kind of crappy WWE booking, but what can you do? The match was okay. It didn't really set the world alight, but kind of like this show, really, the entire episode. It was frustrating to see because I think if Justin was a face, he could have sort of got the fans behind him. Or even if Tyler Breeze was a face, he could have got the fans behind him, and it would just added something to the match. I wouldn't say they phoned it in again, but it was just very didn't really care too much for it. It was a decent little match, but you know what can you do with what you got there? It's just typical WWE, you know, putting things together that don't really make much sense. Which is a shame because NXT, and a lot of people are agreeing with this, NXT is the highlight of the show, or sorry, the highlight of the WWE at the moment. It's really sort of outshining Raw, SmackDown, main event superstars. It's outshining a lot of them at the moment, it really is. But no, you know, the end of the match came about. Justin hit a side slam, went up top to hit the 450. He missed, but he sort of rolled through because Tyler rolled out of the way, but Justin rolled through and Tyler propped himself up on the corner that Justin had just jumped off of. Justin ran at him to sort of attack him, obviously, and got caught with a supermodel kick, followed up by the beauty shot. 1, 2, 3. Tyler Breeze picks up the win. But obviously it just looks like he's going to be facing Mojo Rawley. I'm not keen on it because it doesn't benefit Tyler. It benefits Mojo because he'd be made to look better than what he is. Mojo Rawley is fucking shit. I can't think of anybody who's a fan of Mojo Rawley. I really can't. You know, Tyler Breeze is a phenomenal wrestler, and what he's done to get that feud, I'll never know. He must have pissed off somebody. Maybe he's seen Stephanie naked or something. I don't know. But I'm not keen on it. The sooner it ends, the better. Little backstage segment up next was Regal was talking to arena staff or whatever. The guy goes off and Natalya's there. She asks Regal to give Tyson Kidd another opportunity at the NXT Championship. Regal asks why he should give it Tyson another opportunity because, you know, he's lost his last couple of opportunities. Natalya said he deserves it, and Regal basically grants the match, but he says that it will be his last chance at the title as long as Adrian Neville's the champion. So yeah, I'm not sure when that's set for. I think it might be either next week or the week after, but we're going to have an NXT Championship match at some stage. You know, Neville and Kidd, they have got very good chemistry together, so be something worth seeing. Bayley versus Alexa Bliss was up next. It was okay, but it got a bit sloppy towards the end. There was a few sloppy spots. Bayley won with the belly to Bayley, or Bayley to belly, or whatever she calls it. But it was a weird one because I wouldn't say like Alexa sandbagged her, but she didn't help make the move look better than what it was. And she just, I don't know, it was almost as though Bayley was picking up a lump. You know, somebody who's just like not helping to make the move better than what it, or make the move look decent. It's just, I don't know, just something about it just looked sloppy. It looked lazy by Alexa. I don't think Bayley can be blamed too much for it. And what was weird was Bayley ran at her and Alexa was, she hadn't been attacked at all. And she just stood there and took it. It just didn't make much sense. You know, she's got a lot of work to do, a lot of improving to do, Alexa Bliss. You know, so far the signs are pretty good. But, she's got a lot of work to do to get up to that next level. You know, I think, she's obviously very athletic, so she's got a lot of promise and a lot of potential with that. But as far as her in-ring work goes, she's got a lot of improvement to do. After the match, Bayley called out Charlotte. Says that since Takeover she can't eat, she can't sleep, and she feels as though she's let everyone down. She let the NXT fans down. She said her mum was in attendance for Takeover. She said she feels she let her mum down, and she asked Charlotte for a rematch basically. And we get like one more match chant, which was good to see or good to hear. Charlotte tells Bayley that she didn't let her down and she's finally earned her respect, which we kind of already knew that anyway after she saved her from the attack by Sasha Banks. When was that now? That was that Takeover, yeah. But Charlotte accepts a challenge, and I believe that's going to be on next week's show because Charlotte said, "See you next week, kid." So that kind of tells me that's going to be on next week's show. And they had a decent match at Takeover. As long as Charlotte doesn't try to hit that god awful moonsault again, well, I think we'll be all right. But that should be a good little match again, hopefully. And I don't think we'll see a new champion because it wouldn't make much sense to have one after she's just lost the initial match. So, but we'll see. I don't know. I read the spoilers, and I was chatting to a friend of mine last night about it. And we both sort of like don't care if we read Raw or SmackDown results, but one thing we say we both should stay away from is NXT spoilers, but it never happens. I can't help myself. And doing this, I probably should stay away from them, but I can't. Right, we had Enzo, Amore, Colin, Cassady, and Carmella up next. This is probably the highlight of the show, this little segment, as always, you know. Carmella's obviously recently lost her job at the hairdresser's hair salon, and so she wants to become a wrestler, and she wants Enzo and Cass to train her. So they're all at the performance centre, and they're about to start training. Enzo asked Carmella why she said that she was his sister last week, and she said, "Oh, well, you know, obviously I had to get into the building some way, you know, or somehow." And Enzo said, you know, he's okay with it, but he puts his arm around her, saying it could make things awkward in the future for him. She basically must have said, you know, in your dreams, whatever. Like, brilliant little segment, honestly. She asks, you know, where the wrestling ring is. They go into like where all the gym equipment is, you know, the weights and, you know, running machines, treadmills, things like that. And Enzo says, "Oh, you know, you won't be getting into the ring. You know, you've got to get back into shape first. You know, you got to have the endurance. You know, you got to get in shape." So Carmella goes off in a bit of a huff and a puff, and Cass basically says to Enzo, you know, speaking to her the way you are, you're not going to get where you want to be. And you know, he says it's not the way to go about doing it. And Enzo says he knows what he's doing, and so Cass asks him, you know, well, how come you never had a girlfriend? And Enzo replied with, because I refuse to commit myself to a failure. Yeah, I know how you feel, Enzo. I know how you feel, mate. So he says what he's doing, you know, he says, you know, you treat him like dirt and they'll stick like mud, which isn't going to work, Enzo. I've tried that myself, mate. It doesn't work. Carmella comes back and, wow. Enzo looks around, doesn't take too much notice, and Cass on the other hand, you know, he's sort of, you know, he's liking it. He's loving what Carmella's looking like, especially when she does a few stretches, like sort of bends down, touches her toes to stretch out her legs, and you know, so on and so forth. Enzo looks around again. He sort of does a double take and falls over on the treadmill that he's running on. he hurts his back, and Carmella goes, "You're such an idiot," and he goes, "Actually, I'm a G." It's just quick reply, just like that. He's brilliant. I absolutely love Cass, the way Enzo, the way he's just so quick-witted, his mind's sharp. Really good to see. Cass basically takes the piss out of Enzo for embarrassing himself, and Enzo tells him, you know, don't post that video. But again, Colin Cassady can't help himself, can he? Another video for Instagram where Enzo is making himself look like a twat in front of the girl of his dreams. But it's good what they're doing with these three. You know, the chemistry's there obviously between Enzo and Cass, but Carmella's got the chemistry there as well with them, which is good to see. You know, I'm not usually a fan of bringing other people into a group or team or whatever, but you know, Carmella's working well with them. You know, as I said, the chemistry's there. She's got, you know, good look. Obviously, she's like from the New Jersey area as well. You can tell with the accent. So they've all got that little connection. So we'll see where this goes going forward. You know, I think she's debuted at live events already, but not on TV, obviously, in the ring. But we'll hopefully see that sometime in the next 4 weeks, maybe. Speaking of Enzo, he's up next. His matches against Marcus Louis. Obviously, we shaved bald at TakeOver. You know, you had the usual mic work beforehand from Enzo and Cass. Brilliant as always. They were talking about Pi. I think I've seen like a similar promo from them before, but it was a bit like, are we seeing this again? But it was still well put across at the same time. They did the 1 + 1 = 3.14. You just ate your pie. Then they go through all these different types of pies that Marcus apparently had an allergic reaction to lose his hair, or something. As I say, we've seen it before, so I wasn't really that into it, but it was still good. I said on the Takeover edition, this is referring to Marcus Louis now, I said on the Takeover edition of Axel's analysis that it reminded me of Edge and Kurt Angle in 2002 Judgment Day, where Kurt lost the match and Edge was chasing him around backstage trying to find him so he could shave his hair. Obviously, similar situation at Takeover. And the following weeks on SmackDown, Kurt Angle came out wearing like an amateur wrestling head cap with a wig underneath. And that is exactly what Marcus Louis did on this week's NXT, and it was brilliant because he came out, he just looked like really like humiliated, mortified. He just didn't know where to put himself, and in a way I actually felt kind of sorry for him. And it doesn't happen very often, me feeling sorry for people, especially when it's sort of acted inverted commas as this is. So yeah, Marcus came out with a wrestling cap on, and it was brilliant. According to Jason Albert as well, it was all Sylvester Forte's idea. It doesn't have a short match. The ending came when Enzo was on the outside, Marcus was in the ring. Marcus sort of put his head over the top rope to pull Enzo in. And what Enzo did was he hung him up off the top rope. But what he did is, as he pulled his head down, he pulled the wrestling cap and the wig off. Excuse me. So he pulled the wig off, and Marcus didn't realise at first it was sort of led in the ring, and then he sort of like realised what had happened, and he just looked absolutely mortified. So he walked over to get the cap and the wig to put it back on his head. Enzo, by that time, had got back into the ring, rolled him up 1, 2, 3. Enzo wins the match, and Marcus gets even more humiliated. He threw a bit of a hissy fit, not quite like Christian was doing in 2002, but threw a bit of a hissy fit after the match and sort of shouting and screaming. Sylvester tried to sort of calm him down, but what I can see happening is Marcus turning face, sort of going against Sylvester, like Sylvester sort of humiliating him a little bit more each week. Marcus just thinking, fuck it, I've had enough of you, and just laying into slide, basically. And I think that would be a good little thing to happen, really, because Marcus looks like he's got the tools to be a decent player in the game. He's got a decent look. Well, not now that he's got hair, not got any hair, he hasn't, but he's got the body for it. He's good in the ring. He had a good show against Sami Zayn a couple of weeks ago. Excuse me. So I'd like to see him go at it alone, see how he gets on. But no, I think it would be a face turn for him rather than a face turn for Sylvester if that were to happen. But no, with WWE they'll do it the other way around. Tyson Kidd had a little segment, a little backstage interview, where he says, he appreciates Natty going into bat for him, basically, but, he didn't need her help because he could have asked for an NXT Championship match himself. He says he's going to take away the NXT Championship and all the power that comes with it, and he made it sound like the Philosopher's Stone or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It was very. He sort of put it up on a pedestal as much as it should be put up on a pedestal. He made it like this magical thing where if you've got the NXT Championship, you've got all the power in the world. Similar to like a Harry Potter kind of story. But he said he's the only person to have beaten Neville in 2014, which he's right, he is. He's beaten him twice, I believe, both times in tag team matches. And, this is his last chance, so it makes him dangerous. And he basically says he's going to win the championship next week, or whenever it happens to be. After the break, we had a little segment with Sami Zayn, sort of similar interview backstage. He basically asked his opinion on Tyson Kidd getting a match against Adrian Neville. He basically says that it's pitiful that Natty had to go and ask for the title match for him, and but he says that he's a desperate man, and desperate men are dangerous. But then he also says that Adrian Neville's desperate because look how he's keeping hold of the title, putting the referee out the ring, so on and so forth. But he said it doesn't matter who wins the title because basically he's gunning for him after that match. So I think with Sami we will see him. I don't know if we'll see him as NXT champion, but we'll definitely see him get a one-on-one match with. I'm guessing Neville's going to win next week, so we'll see him get a one-on-one match with Neville because that's how it's been built. And I think easily match of the year already. You think back, we've had some great matches in NXT or in the WWE in 2014 already. Zayn's match with Cesaro at Arrival back in what was that, February. As I mentioned earlier, the Wyatts versus the Shield, Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt, Daniel Bryan versus Triple H at WrestleMania. As I say, we've had some really good matches this year, so this would just be another one to add to the list. If it happens at the next live event, should it happen, it's a great way to cap off the year for both WWE and NXT, really. Main event up next. It was for the tag team championship, and it's KalistiCara versus the Ascension, rematch from Takeover. And it was a really good match. I thought, pretty decent match. Not as good as a Takeover match, but still, a good TV main event, really. The bad thing about watching the Ascension now is I just expect them to sort of do what they were doing on NXT for the better part of a year, where they were just sort of, destroying one guy, knocking his partner off the apron, and pinning the other, the guy in the ring. And I just think, you just think, well, when's that going to happen? I'm just waiting for it. But now they're having decent little matches, and you think, fucking hell, we had a year of them just destroying nobodies. And now they've got two guys who are no bigger than half of the guys that they destroyed over the last year, and they're not destroying them. Just, again, typical WWE booking, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But as I say, the match itself was decent, it was pretty good. But what confused me was KalistiCara, when they were there were a couple of occasions. I think one time KalistiCara tagged himself out of the ring because he'd taken a bit of a beating. So Kalisto comes in. And then less than a minute later, Kalisto tags back out for KalistiCara again. Just baffled me. And then the same sort of thing happened towards the end of the match. Kalisto took a beating, tags in KalistiCara. Less than a minute later, KalistiCara tags Kalisto back in. I was just looking at it thinking, what? It didn't drag down the overall quality of the match, but it just come on, it just didn't make much sense. The end of the match, decent little finish actually. Victor and Kalisto were the two legal men. Victor took down Kalisto with a high elbow, and he threw Sin Cara out of the ring. And Hideo Itami came out onto the stage to distract the Ascension. Connor jumped off the apron to sort of think, what the fuck's going on kind of thing. Victor sort of got a similar look. He sort of starts walking towards the edge of the ring, but gets caught with the Salida del Sol 1, 2, 3. And the first defense was a successful one for KalistiCara. It was a decent little match, and it just baffles me why they didn't book the Ascension like that for the last year. Really did. After the match, Connor went after Hideo, but he basically got taken out by kicks and punches really quick, like Jackie Chan kind of shit. That was the end of the show, really, with KalistiCara in the ring celebrating their victory. Overall rating, I've gone 5.5 because as I say, there were a lot of things that didn't make much sense. There were a few things that were just like, you know, the tag team match was good, but there's a few things like the bullshit Dempsey and Mojo fucking Rawley match. It was just like, you know, a minute and a half of crap, basically. The Divas match was good, but sloppy in places. So things that I just dragged the overall rating of the show down. You know, as I said, it wasn't a bad show, but it wasn't a good show. It was good enough, served a purpose in a way. We got one bit of news this week, and that's that WWE are apparently interested in signing Adam Cole. I'm a bit, because I love Adam Cole. I would say at the moment he's my favourite wrestler in the world, hands down. You know, the guy just phenomenal in the ring, phenomenal on the mic. Whether he's working as a heel or as a face, he pulls it off brilliantly. But the way that WWE is right now, I don't know if I'd want to see Adam there. You know, I've met the guy as well. You know, he's a lovely bloke. He really is. And I don't know. I don't think I'd want to see him there just yet. You know, obviously he's still got a contract with Ring of Honor. How long that's got left on it, I don't know. Hopefully another couple of years so that WWE can piss off, improve their product to make it good enough for when Adam Cole arrives. And then obviously, you know, you've got the other indie guys there, you know, Steen, Devitt, Kenta, Neville, so on and so forth. But no, I just like to see the product improve before Adam Cole gets there, because Ring of Honor at the moment, in my opinion, is the best wrestling show that's out there, and Adam Cole is a very big part of that. A very big part of the reason why it's so good. So, and as well, if he does go there, I'd like him to keep the Adam Cole name. I know it's not going to happen. Obviously, Kenta, no longer Kenta, Hideo Itami, which I do like that name in all fairness. So there's a lot of WWE given names that I don't like. And as well, I'm hoping Kevin Steen keeps the name Kevin Steen, which is his real name. But again, it's something that I can't see that's going to happen. So it's frustrating because, you know, Steen's built himself a legacy on the indies as Kevin Steen. Cole's built himself a legacy in Ring of Honor as Adam Cole. And they're probably not going to keep those names. Like, you know, obviously when Steen debuts and when Adam Cole comes to the WWE. But so they don't give him some crappy name. Well, I say crappy name. Dolph Ziggler's made it work, hasn't he? But I don't know. I think that the name sometimes has a bearing on how big you're going to be. You know, if you've got like in inverted commas a cool name, you'll be alright. But some people like Mojo Rawley, he's not going to go very far with a name like Mojo Rawley. I just don't like change, and I like people to keep their initial names: Adam Cole, Kevin Steen. I'd rather Kenta with the states Kenta, but I do like the name Hideo Itami. Devitt does have a name, but I'm not going to spoil it for you just yet. I'm not too keen on it. But, you know, we'll see what they do. We'll see. Birthdays, September 22nd, Ole Anderson, 72, Luther Reigns, Kurt Angle's sort of bodyguard, I suppose, in a way, when he was the SmackDown general manager. He turned 43. September the 23rd, Matt Hardy, 40, and Romeo Rosselli. I don't know if anybody remembers the Heartthrobs tag team, Romeo and Antonio. They were on Raw from about 2005 to 2007. Jobbers, basically. Romeo turned 38. September 24th, Stephanie McMahon turned 38, and Christopher Nowinski turned 36. Christopher Nowinski, incidentally, has done some brilliant work. He's sort of like a consultant for concussions and head injuries and head trauma, but he's done a brilliant job, sort of helping to recognise head injuries and what precautions you need to take to like avoid them, and protect people, so on and so forth. So fair play to Christopher Nowinski. Big respect for the man. You know, his career was ended itself by a concussion or a series of concussions, and what he's done to devote his life after he had to stop wrestling, what he's done to help other people so they can continue to wrestle after concussions is just nothing short of phenomenal, really. So big respect to Christopher Nowinski. September the 25th, former Fabulous Freebirds member, gorgeous Jimmy Garvin turned 62. September 26th, Buddy Murphy turned 26, so that was yesterday. I'm recording this on Sunday, so that was yesterday. And today, September the 28th, Steve Blackman turns 51. Grappling greats this week. I've gone with the Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers, the original Nature Boy. I did Pat O'Connor last week, so this one sort of in a way kind of follows on from Pat O'Connor. He was born Herman Gustav Rode Jr. On the 20th of February 1921. He wrestled his first match on July the 4th, 1939, at the age of 18 against Mo Brazen, and he won that match. His first major victory came over Ed Strangler Lewis. Not sure what year that was, I couldn't find that, but Ed Strangler Lewis, one of the best wrestlers of all time. Buddy Rogers managed to beat it. In 1961, this goes over the match with Pat O'Connor. Defeated Pat O'Connor to become the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He dropped the title in 1963, January 1963, to Lou Thesz. And Lou Thesz was basically just publicly completely disliked Buddy Rogers for whatever reason. I'm not sure. Again, I couldn't find anything on it. So what they wanted to do with the NWA was to have Rogers drop the title to Lou Thesz. Rogers wasn't keen on the idea, but the match was made anyway, and there were three safeguards put in place for the match. The first one was a 1-fall match instead of the usual 2 out of 3 falls, which 2 out of 3 falls were sort of the norm until about 1975, I think I read. But this match in 1961 was only a 1-fall match. Promoter Sam Muchnick threatened to give the $25,000 deposit that Rogers had for the belt. Basically, in the NWA back then, the guys had to give a $25,000 deposit for the belt before they became champion. Like, that was in the knowledge that they were going to become champion. And Rogers' $25,000 would have been given to charity had he basically disagreed with the outcome of the match. And the third safeguard was matching them against a legit wrestler, so Lou Thesz, basically, who could have just easily taken the title if necessary, similar to what the Goldust Trio did with Ed Strangler Lewis in the 20s and the 30s, where basically, if anybody went off script, they had a legit guy there who could have taken the belt from them. So yeah, basically, Lou Thesz won the match and the title. In 1963, Rogers, inverted commas, won a tournament in Brazil to be named the WWF champion. Excuse me. And he's one of only 3 guys to hold the NWA World Championship and one of the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Championship. That's WWE's version of the World Heavyweight Championship. The only other 2 men were Ric Flair and, believe it or not, Christian. Christian was a 2-time NWA World Champion in TNA. Rogers' reign was cut short as the WWF Champion, though he suffered a mild heart attack. And legend has it that basically he lost the title in 48 seconds to Bruno Sammartino. And legend has it that Toots Monk, who was like an advisor for Vince McMahon and like a promoter for the WWF at the time, he apparently, and this was quite profusely denied by Bruno Sammartino, according to Rogers, Toots Monk dragged Rogers from his hospital bed, forced him to compete to lose the title, because obviously it was quite apparent that he couldn't defend the title with his health the way it was. But as I say, Sammartino denied that ever happened. Basically said it was because Rogers didn't want to drop the title to it. Became a manager in the late 1970s, managing wrestlers such as Ken Patera, Gene Anderson, Jimmy Snuka, and Big John Studd. And he finally retired from in-ring action. He broke a hip in a tag team match routine with Jimmy Snuka against Captain Lou Albano and Ray Stevens. In 1992, Rogers suffered a severe broken arm, as well as 3 strokes, 2 of which were on the same day. And he passed away as a result of all of that on the 26th of June 1992. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 1994, the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame in 1996, the NWA Hall of Fame in 2010, and he's also a member of the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame. I'm not sure what year he was inducted into that though. So there you go, there's this week's Grappling Greats, Buddy Rogers. End of the show, as always. I've been thinking about adding a Ring of Honor piece to the show. I probably won't though, because I'm 36 minutes into this one now, and you're probably already sick and tired of hearing me droning on about Buddy Rogers and NXT and Adam Cole. But it might be something that I'm thinking about in the future. I was obviously going to start writing a blog on it, as I mentioned a few weeks ago. Not really that interested in blogging at the moment, but maybe start up another podcast and maybe ask the question, see if anybody else wants to sort of co-host, if you will. So if there is anybody looking to sort of co-host a Ring of Honor podcast, just let me know. The only sort of restrictions would be on time zones, like if it's with people in the States. You know, I've had somebody recently, in recent months, asked me to do a SmackDown podcast, which was something I was quite interested in doing at the time. The guy lived on the other side of the States, like on the west coast of the States. Very difficult to sort of get a decent time zone when you're both available to be able to do that. So unfortunately, that had to go out the window. Yeah, it's the end of the show. As always, find me on Twitter at Axel Mulligan, and the Axel's Analysis page at Axel's Analysis page at Axel's Analysis. Shout outs as always. I've got a new one this week, but I'll go for the usuals. Tim Vicious, find Vicious Rants on YouTube, where Tim reviews Raws and pay-per-views. Sunday Segway, find them on Twitter at Sunday Segway, and you can listen to the Sunday Segway podcast on Podomatic, iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher Radio. Sorry, it took a second to think now what the last one was. James Powers 33. Listen to James's Wrestling Ramble on YouTube, Mixcloud, and Podomatic. Tony _Walker. Tony hosts the Wrestling Matters podcast. He's recently done an interview with Jezebeth, a British female wrestler. I'll give that a listen later on. You can listen to the Wrestling Matters podcast on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Podomatic, I believe. At PW Smart. So at Wrestling Rambles, check out WrestlingRambles.com. Unfortunately, they're going to be temporarily going down as of October the 7th. Just if anybody listening from Wrestling Rambles, thanks so much for the opportunities that you gave me earlier this year, because, you know, it sort of broadened my horizons of reviewing shows and reviewing matches, and I really enjoyed writing for you guys. I did the SmackDown count in my top 15 moments in SmackDown history to celebrate the 15th anniversary of SmackDown. Something I really enjoyed doing at the time. So yeah, thanks to you guys for giving me that opportunity. I really appreciate it. And the new shout out this week, got Maryann and Wayne Mason. They live in Florida, and what they do is they go to a lot of the live events for NXT. So Maryann sent me a message on Twitter recently. She said, you know, if you give our blog a shout out, because they blog from the live shows, they take pictures and post them up onto their blog. You'll find their blog at masonsringsidereview.blogspot.com, and I'll put a link to it in the notes for this video. You can find them on Twitter. You can find Maryann at Grave End Babies, and you can find Wayne at Wayne Mason. So, give those guys, check out their blogs, check out their pictures, check out their reviews. Actually, Maryann, she sent me a message yesterday on Twitter. She sent me a tweet saying she's actually looking forward to this week's show. So, sort of nice to actually get a bit of support. Last week I had a lot of positive feedback actually. So, anybody who sent me feedback last week, I really appreciate that. It's something that I've always been I've always been quite passionate about wrestling. So, when people appreciate what I'm putting across in these videos, it seems to make it all worthwhile, really. So thank you very much. I'll say that's the end of the show, and I'll be back again next week.